Hey everyone, I'm Brian Parks, and in this video I want to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to jump into Linux for a change. We'll see why in a second, but I want to install RabbitMQ from the stock image and configure it to work with CSM. In a previous video I showed how to troubleshoot RabbitMQ, and in that case I was using the RabbitMQ that is installed with Cherwell. So I just installed Cherwell. I had one machine, and RabbitMQ and Cherwell were both running on the same machine. This video is geared more toward people who are looking for either high availability or some sort of scale out, where you're going to be running RabbitMQ on a separate machine from parts of your Cherwell environment. Maybe you have Portal and browser client on one machine and app server on another machine. Maybe you have multiple Portal machines. I did a video about how to scale out the web components, browser client, Portal, and app server. Maybe you're doing something like that and you want RabbitMQ on its own machine. So this is how you would do it. You would basically go to the RabbitMQ official download site and install it there if you wanted to run it on Windows. Or in this demo, I'm actually going to run it on Linux, just for a little bit different. But all of the commands that I show, I'm going to do it from the command line. All of the commands that I show do correspond to Windows. So if you are installing it on Windows, all of those commands will transfer. The only thing that'll be a little bit different is where you actually get RabbitMQ from. So with that, let's get into the demo. Okay. So here I have my Linux machine, and this is a relatively up-to-date Debian install. If you're using Ubuntu, this will look exactly the same. I tested it on Ubuntu first before I went to this machine. This machine made demoing a little bit easier. If you're using a Red Hat-based distribution, Red Hat, CentOS, SUSE, something like that, it'll probably be very similar, but obviously with yum instead of apt. So that's where we have to start, is getting RabbitMQ from the package manager. And I'm just going to show getting the packaged version. If you want to use a newer version of RabbitMQ or something like that, you're probably already familiar with how to do that on Linux. Go ahead and do that. I'm not going to show that in this video. I'm just going to go from the official package repositories. So let's go apt sudo apt install Rabbitmq-Server. That's what the package is called on both Debian and Ubuntu. Again, not sure what it's called on the Red Hat side, but Debian and Ubuntu, it's called Rabbitmq-Server. So we'll let that install, and it'll take a few minutes, maybe not a few minutes, maybe a minute or so. It'll set up everything that we want from RabbitMQ. It'll install all the dependencies, and you can see this is a machine that I've used a lot, so it says there are some things that have been installed that I don't need. Those won't get installed as part of your RabbitMQ installation, but things like Erlang, which RabbitMQ is written in, will get installed so that everything is ready to go. So now we need a couple things. You might want the web console, and if you wanted to do that, you would do sudo, again, rabbitmq-plugins. I think it's install or enable, and it's RabbitMQ_management. So I'll do that, and it says the following plugins have been enabled, one of which is RabbitMQ management. So now, with that installed, we can actually go over to not localhost, because obviously this is talking to the RabbitMQ that came with Cherwell that is installed on my local system, but in this case Hemingway, because that's the name of my machine, with the port 15672, and I'll get a login box. Now, if you go to this admin console and try to type guest, you'll actually get a login failed message. And of course, it was already visible at that point. Let me try to clear that. There we go. Okay, so guest, I can spell guest, login failed. The reason for that is the guest account can only be used from localhost. So if I tried to log in from the actual Linux machine, from Hemingway, I could log in with guest, but since I'm on my local machine, I'm on my laptop, which is a completely different machine, I can't use guest. And I probably wouldn't want to anyway. I probably want to create a new user account for use with Cherwell. So let's go ahead and do that. In order to do that, you do, again, sudo. All of this has to be done as root. So I'm going to be doing sudo before all the commands. Obviously, that doesn't exist on the Windows side. And it's Rabbitmq control, Rabbitmq-CTL, and we'll do add user Cherwell and a super secret password. Yes, this does require putting the password on the command line. And in just a second, it'll create the user. Now, this user is just a standard user, doesn't have any permissions, and isn't an administrator. So let's fix that. So in order to make it an administrator, we do set user tags, again with the Rabbitmq control command, the name of the user, and then administrator. Okay, now let's add permissions, or in this case it's set permissions, and that takes the name of the user. Let me try that again. Cherwell. And there are 3 regular expressions. And for our purposes, we're just going to give basically say everything. And the everything regular expression is dot star. And I need to put quotes around this because otherwise the command line will try to interpret that and look for files matching that pattern, and bad things happen. So put it in quotes and do that 3 times. So dot star, dot star, dot star. Setting permissions in virtual host / basically everything. And now at this point we can go into the console again, and we'll use the user that we just set up. Log in. We're logged in. And now we can see pretty much everything. Now it looks like I actually didn't stop the service host after I did my testing before this demo. So let's stop the service host. And if you remember from the last Rabbitmq video, you'll notice, exchanges is basically nothing there. Queues has some, boilerplate stuff, but nothing for nothing indicating that service host is actually operating. So let's go over to Server Manager, and under Message Queue Settings, normally out of the box, this has host name localhost, and of course the user ID is admin, password is also admin. Right? This is what it looks like out of the box. But since we want to talk to Hemingway, we'll change the host name to Hemingway, or in your case, whatever the machine name is that you're running Rabbitmq on. And this has to be something that is DNS resolvable from the machine that service host is running on. So Hemingway, I'm leaving the port the same because I didn't change that. For virtual host / is fine. And now we have to specify the username and password that you created. So username Cherwell, and my password is the super secret password. And now I can save that and then go back to services, and you already know how this turns out because it was running before, but I can start service host, it'll start, and as soon as it started, you'll start to see more queues show up here, and on the Exchanges tab, it'll show up as well. There we go. So now we have more exchanges, and then the queues are also showing up. So that's basically it. Let's switch back to the slides. Yeah, that's basically it. The way to get Cherwell talking to Rabbitmq is first to install Rabbitmq on the machine that you want it running on. And of course, in this video, I just showed a single Rabbitmq instance. Rabbitmq is very scalable. You can install it on multiple machines and then connect them all together as a cluster, and they operate as if they were a single Rabbitmq instance. That's actually pretty cool. If you're going for high availability or extreme scalability, that's the way to do it. And then you just configure all of the machines that pieces of Cherwell are running on to talk to that Rabbitmq. Obviously, I showed specifically with Service Host, but remember that sending email also uses Rabbitmq. So any of those web pieces, the browser client, the portal, or the app server, all of those pieces also need to be talking to the same Rabbitmq instance or cluster so that they can communicate with the rest of the mail infrastructure, the mail delivery service, which is part of Service Host. So basically, all parts of your Cherwell instance need to be talking to the same Rabbitmq, whether that's one that was installed with Cherwell and you have everything on the same machine, or if that's a Rabbitmq that you've installed yourself. So with that, that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate you liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. I've got some more videos like this lined up, more administration type videos. So if you want to see more of these, definitely leave a comment below and let me know you like them. If you want me to do some more videos on more Cherwell specific stuff, building content in Cherwell, that sort of thing, I've also got that coming up on the docket. But leave me a comment as well, letting me know that you're interested in that sort of content. If you have any questions at all, leave a comment, shoot me an email, and be sure to share this with your friends and colleagues, and let me know what you think about how the channel's going. Thanks for watching, and have a great week.